Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're kind of shifting gears. We're looking beyond the high octane world most people probably associate with him.
The Fast and Furious world.
Exactly. We're exploring the deeper story of Paul Walker. Now, you might know him best as BrianOConner, of course, but our aim today is really to understand the multifaceted person behind that iconic role.
Yeah, definitely. We've been digging into remembering Paul Walker, Life Beyond the Fast Lane, and what's really striking is this picture of a guy whose life had, well, a surprising amount of depth.
Yeah.
And real passion. It's been, several years now since he passed away. And the fact that he's still so vividly remembered, it just speaks volumes, I think, about the connection he made.
It really does.
So yeah, our mission here is to uncover the actor, sure, but also the humanitarian, the dad, the friend, the whole picture of Paul Walker.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. Paul William Walker IV, born September 12th, 1973, out in Glendale, California. Seems like a pretty typical start, but the environment he grew up in.
That's interesting. Oh, absolutely. So his dad was a sewer contractor, and his mom, she was a fashion model.
Right. Quite the contrast.
Yeah, and he was the oldest of 5 kids raised in a Mormon household. So, think about that mix, kind of a working class vibe from his dad, but then his mom having those connections to, image and performance.
That early exposure, yeah. Even if it wasn't direct at first.
Exactly. It's pretty notable, I think.
And it wasn't actually that long before he was directly involved, right? He was a child model. I mean, can you picture a 2-year-old Paul Walker in a Pampers commercial?
It definitely paints a different image than the action star, doesn't it?
Totally.
And after that, he started picking up small roles on TV all through the 80s. Shows like Highway to Heaven, Who's the Boss, things like that.
Wow. Okay.
And his first movie role was actually way back in 1986, a film called Monster in the Closet. So, I mean, he was navigating this whole industry from a super young age.
You have to wonder how that, shaped his view of Hollywood later on, being immersed so early.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Maybe give him a more grounded perspective, on that whole crazy world. It wasn't like he was an overnight sensation.
Right. He put in the time. Then he moved into those late 90s teen movies, Varsity Blues, all that. Those definitely got him noticed by a bigger audience.
Yeah, those were key roles for sure. Established him as, a young talent to keep an eye on. But the real earthquake moment, the thing that just completely changed his career path, that was The Fast and the Furious in 2001.
Oh, yeah.
That movie wasn't just a hit. It, tapped into something bigger culturally.
It absolutely did. I mean, I don't think anyone could have predicted how massive that franchise would become or how long it would last.
No way.
It just captured something. What's really interesting, though, is that Paul's connection to that whole car culture, it wasn't just an act for the camera, was it?
Not at all. He was genuinely into cars, racing, collecting. The passion was real, and it started way before the movies.
Right.
He was a proper enthusiast, and I think that authenticity, that love for it, really came across on screen. It made his BrianOConner feel, real. It wasn't just acting for him. It was kind of like an extension of himself.
And you feel that.
Yeah.
That genuineness, that connection. I think that's a huge part of why BrianOConner is such a beloved character. It felt real because, for Paul, it kind of was.
Exactly.
And thinking about those early films, his friendship with Vin Diesel off-screen became almost as legendary as their dynamic on screen.
It really did. That bond went way beyond just being coworkers. I mean, the fact that Vin Diesel named his daughter Pauline after Paul died.
So moving.
It just says everything, doesn't it? About how deep that friendship was. It really underlines that whole theme of family that's so central to the movies, and it seems was really important to Paul in his own life, too.
Yeah, that gesture. Incredible. Really shows the genuine connection they all had. It wasn't just a movie set. And speaking of family, Paul became a dad pretty young.
Right.
Daughter Meadow was born in 98, so he was, 25. He was navigating this huge career boom right alongside becoming a parent.
He was. And, while he kept his personal life pretty private, it was always clear that Meadow was absolutely central to him.
Yeah.
She lived with her mom in Hawaii for a while first, but then her moving to live with Paul in California in 2011. That really says a lot about his commitment to being, a present dad, especially as she got older.
It really does. And, Fast and Furious obviously defined a big chunk of his career for a lot of people. It's important to remember he didn't only do that. He actively looked for other kinds of roles too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Smaller, more character-focused stuff.
Oh, definitely. Like Running Scared, that comes to mind straight away.
Oh, yeah, that was such a departure from Brian O'Connor.
Totally different. He played this like gritty mob guy, a
Yeah.
much darker, more intense character. And what's interesting is even though the movie itself got kind of mixed reviews,
Right.
his performance was actually praised by quite a few critics. They noted the intensity, the range. It showed he could do very different things, that he wanted to stretch himself beyond just the action hero mold.
Absolutely. And then there was Eight Below.
Yeah.
That survival drama with the sled dogs.
Right.
That showed a whole different side too.
Yeah.
Quieter, more emotional.
Exactly. It really highlighted his versatility, his willingness to try different kinds of stories, ones that weren't just about car chases and explosions.
Hmm.
And we have to mention Ours. That came out after he passed away.
Oh, that was tough to watch, knowing.
Yeah. He played a father trying desperately to keep his premature baby alive in a hospital during Hurricane Katrina. The timing of the release just added this incredibly poignant layer to what was already a really strong dramatic performance. It really showed his acting chops.
It's bittersweet thinking about where his career might have gone. I felt like he was maybe just starting to explore even more complex roles.
I agree. But beyond the acting, what really stands out, I think, is his commitment to humanitarian work. And it's something he often did pretty quietly, without a lot of fuss.
That's a really key point. In 2010, after the huge earthquake in Haiti, he founded Reach Out worldwide.
Right.
ROWW.
Right, ROWW. And what's different here is how personally involved he was.
Yeah, it wasn't just like writing a check and putting his name on it.
Not at all. He was hands-on. After Haiti, he actually flew down there himself with a team of EMTs, like providing direct medical help on the ground.
That's incredible.
It really is. And so, tragically, that commitment was there right up until the very end. The day he died, he was at a charity event, wasn't he?
Yeah, raising money for victims of Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines.
It's such a powerful example of his character, his consistent drive to help people.
It truly is. And it points to that humility people talk about. He didn't seem to need the public praise for his charity work. A lot of it only really came out after he died. There's that quote from him that kind of sums it up. When you put goodwill out there, it's amazing what can be accomplished.
That fits perfectly with how his Fast and Furious co-stars describe him. They always talk about him being so down-to-earth, genuinely kind. Someone fame didn't really change.
Right.
Tyrese Gibson has shared so many stories about Paul's generosity, how supportive he was, and Jordana Brewster often mentioned how calming he was on set.
It's that sense of realness, that kindness.
Yeah.
That's what seemed to connect with fans, too, I think.
Yeah.
In a world where celebrity can feel so manufactured, he just seemed authentic.
Yeah, definitely appealing. And interestingly, even though he was obviously a good-looking guy, a leading man,
Yeah.
he never really seemed comfortable with that whole sex symbol label, did he?
No, not really. He seemed much more like, just a laid-back California surfer dude who happened to be famous.
Exactly. His real enthusiasm seemed to come out more when he talked about, like, marine biology. Did you know he actually studied that in college?
I did. It was such a cool fact about him. It often gets overlooked. He really loved the ocean.
Yeah.
Big surfer. And he even did that National Geographic show, Expedition Great White, right?
Yeah.
Where he helped tag sharks.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty serious involvement, not just a casual interest.
Oh, kidding.
It just shows his interest went way beyond Hollywood. And it wasn't just the ocean either. He loved camping, being outdoors. Seemed like he needed that connection with nature to kind of balance everything else.
It really sounds like he kept a grounded perspective on the whole fame thing. Using his platform for good, but not letting it, totally define who he was. And that perspective probably influenced some career choices too, right?
It seems like it. There are reports he turned down some massive roles, like Superman even,
Wow.
to focus on projects he felt more passionate about, or maybe that fit his values better. Suggests he wasn't just chasing the biggest blockbusters.
Yeah, discernment.
And of course, BrianOConner became so iconic, and you can kind of see how that character evolved over the films, reflecting some of Paul's own values, especially about family and loyalty.
That's a great point. And then when he passed away so tragically during the filming of Furious 7.
Yeah.
Wow. The way they handled that in the movie was just handled with such care.
It really was a unique and incredibly moving moment in film, I think.
Wow.
That final scene, that last drive, Brian taking a different road, it felt like a real farewell. to the character and to Paul.
Oh, absolutely. It hit hard.
Resonated with audiences everywhere.
And that song, See You Again, wow, became this massive anthem of, like, grief and remembrance, captured how so many people felt.
It was a powerful tribute, yeah. And the way they finished the film, technically, using his brothers, Cody and Caleb, as stand-ins, and the CGI, it was done so respectfully.
The fact his brothers were willing to do that,
Yeah.
step in to help finish his last movie, incredibly poignant, must have provided some sense of closure maybe for the fans, but especially for the cast and crew who'd worked with him for so long.
Absolutely.
So let's just think back to that day, November 30th, 2013. He was at that charity event for RWW, and he and his friend, Roger Rodas, went out for a drive.
Yeah. And tragically, the investigation later found this car was going way too fast when it crashed. Both Paul and Roger died. Just sudden, devastating.
He was only 40.
Yeah.
The reaction, the grief from fans, from the industry, especially that Fast and Furious family, it was just immense.
Yeah.
Showed the impact he'd made.
The crash site itself became this huge, like, spontaneous memorial. So many people gathered. And his co-stars, especially Vin Diesel, have never stopped talking about how much his loss affected them, that deep bond they had.
I think what really struck a chord afterwards, too, were all the stories that started coming out about his quiet acts of kindness, things he did that nobody knew about.
Yes. That story about the engagement ring.
Oh,
For
right.
the military couple. Back in 2004, I think. The jewelers shared it after Paul died. Apparently, Paul overheard them in the store saying they couldn't really afford the ring they wanted.
Wow.
So he just secretly paid for it.
Oh,
Told the
wow.
store not to say who did it.
That says everything about someone's character, doesn't it? Those quiet moments.
It really does. And there are other stories like that, just small gestures showing his nature. And his legacy, it definitely continues through Meadow, his daughter. She's shown such strength.
She really has. She started the Paul Walker Foundation, right?
Yeah, focusing on marine science scholarships and research, directly honoring his passion for the ocean.
That's wonderful. And she stayed so close with Vin Diesel and his family, too. Vin's her godfather, I think.
He is. Which just shows how those bonds from the films really became real family ties.
Yeah.
Meadow shares some really moving tributes to her dad sometimes. Keeps his memory alive, gives little glimpses into their relationship. And the Fast franchise itself, it keeps going, but they always seem to find ways to honor Paul's character and his importance to it all.
It's become this global monster, that franchise. And Paul was just so fundamental to its DNA, its success. Those themes of family, the one you're born with, the one you choose, they hit so hard in the movies. And it really did seem to mirror his own values.
Totally. And when you look back at interviews with him or hear what people who knew him say, it's clear how grounded he stayed, even with all that fame. He talked pretty openly about wanting to just be a dad, enjoy the simple things. Like, the fame wasn't the end goal for him.
Right.
He even had that famous quote, "If one day the speed kills me, don't cry because I was smiling." Well, it's incredibly poignant now, obviously. But it also kind of speaks to his spirit, maybe. His love of life, accepting the risks.
Yeah. Those words definitely hit differently now. It's like he had this awareness of how precious life is, how unpredictable, and his commitment to action with his charity work. That was real, too. He says, I'm a doer. I should be there. I should be helping out. That wasn't just talk.
No, he really lived it. And Reach Out Worldwide, ROWW, it's still doing its work, responding to disasters, keeping his vision going. His dad and brother have been really involved in making sure that continues.
It's amazing. So, yeah, it's been years now, but his impact on movies, on charity, just on the people who knew him or felt they knew him, it's undeniable. He packed a lot of passion and purpose into a life that was, well, way too short.
He really did. He left a mark that goes way beyond just being a movie star. He's remembered as, just a fundamentally good person who used his influence to actually try and make a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on Paul Walker, we really hope you've maybe gotten a richer picture of the man behind BrianOConner, discovered some of that surprising depth, that genuine character.
Yeah, and maybe it makes you think a bit about that balance, between a public image and someone's private values.
Yeah.
He seemed to navigate that with a lot of authenticity.
And perhaps it's a reminder about the power of just pursuing what you're genuinely passionate about with real purpose, whether it's cars or the ocean or helping people, like Paul clearly did.
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought for you. How can we all maybe try to live with that same kind of blend of passion and purpose that seemed to define Paul Walker's life, whatever our own fast lane might be, something to think about?